Welcome to the RtWS Show. I'll be your host today on this. Gary Williams is on our show Monday. I have my right-hand man, Adam, here with me as always. I got Tony Tone here to my left, and we have the always world-famous Coach Shu. Coach Shu, thank you for stopping in with us here today.
Happy to be here as always. I could not miss Gary.
You can't, hey, legendary, as we have very, very hardly advertised. The legendary Hall of Famer Gary Williams will be joining us here in just a little while. First off, we want to pay our respects. Ladies and gentlemen, the oldest dog in the world, Bobby, of 31 years, has officially passed away. Moment of silence. Thank you, Bobby.
Rest in paradise, King.
Yes, rest in paradise. We just got the news right before the show. Want to give a moment of silence. We are huge dog lovers over here, but we know all dogs cross that rainbow bridge into heaven. They even made a movie about it. Mm-hmm. All dogs going to heaven.
31.
Yeah.
It honestly just gives me hope that my dog can live to 31.
All
That'd
right.
be so awesome.
Right. I hope all my dogs but Dobby lives to 31. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can handle that guy for 31 years, man. God. I can barely handle him for the 2. Love you, Dobby.
Dobby's a solid 10-year dog.
Yeah, solid 10. Love you, Dobby, more than anything. Wild weekend in the sports world. Tony, I know you're a beloved Phillies, so have a huge game tonight, World Series. On the line.
Absolutely. I'm super pumped about it. I was getting pretty down on myself just because, or I should say down on the entire team, just because they were 2 devastating losses. There's the one that were kind of gut punches. But to come back and get a couple of from the big boys up top, dude, Schwarber and Harper. It was just the way they were swinging the bat, was getting me pretty freaking
Hey,
excited.
Cubs fan, I'm always going to – Schwarber, one of my favorite Cubs just because of that World Series. But, of course, the one night I bet on you guys, he decided to lose. So.
That fat, skinny, as I call
yeah.
him. Is he fat or is he skinny?
Shu, how was your weekend in Wild World of Sports?
It was good. The Bearcats lost.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
Other than that, it was all right.
Yeah. Adam?
My week was not quite finished yet. I got a Minnesota Vikings game to let me know if my weekend's going to be good fantasy-wise for the NFL.
I did take the Niners winning off my parlay only for you.
Yeah,
so
I appreciated that when I saw you do it. So hopefully they win, and hopefully I can win all my fantasy leagues.
Well, I had the Browns winning yesterday, winning my parlay. I talk about my gambling addiction here a little bit. The refs were a little shaky on that one, Shu. I know you said that you, as a Bengals fan, were not happy with that.
I was disgusted.
I'll take a win the best way that I can, but yeah, there's a couple of late penalties where if I wasn't a Browns fan, I might, think that was a questionable call. But as a Browns fan, I would take it.
Every single Browns fan says, though, well, we're making up for all those calls against us all those years. Every single one says that.
I will join the bandwagon.
I say watching it with Clay, I'm glad they got called the way they did.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of refs, though, we found the ultimate Yinzer ref. I mean, Derek, if you could pull that video up real quick. Sure, I don't know if you've seen this viral video yet, but the saying is true with this man. You can take the man out of Pittsburgh, but you can't take Pittsburgh out of the man.
Nah.
So the video that we have coded up for you, this is a referee being the absolute Yinzer with all the downs. Take a listen. Oh, I don't know if we got the audio. But basically, every single time this guy's saying first down, D-A-H-N, if you watch the Pat McAfee show, you understand that is the ultimate Yinzer of Pittsburghians there, Tony.
Oh, he's stern, too.
You said that he sounds like pretty much every single grandpa that you've met.
100%. Come on. It's very stern but fair. Come on.
Speaking of refs, we had a ref pretty much try and quit in the middle of the game, Shu, on Friday. We got at Westfall versus Piketon, and there was an onside kick where I'm pretty sure we saw a kid get absolutely murdered. And then 20-minute break. Ref runs off the field. We had thought he had quit. Really had to go get the rule book, bring it out, and glad that he got that taken care of. But Westfall beat Piketon to make the playoffs in that one, and they play at Valley View, who is 9-1 for their playoff game. So congratulations to the Mustangs on their playoff appearance. Piketon picked to win the league, doesn't even make the playoffs, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely. I said that was something we were talking about, especially going into this game. I know we were talking about, Westfall was looking like they were going to win the whole time just because they're just the way they were trained.
They have that swagger, man. I mean, Bryce Wickline came out with Joey Wright, and from the start, they had the absolute swagger of a team. Tony, we were at the game. It was onside all night. Both teams. It was kind of a weird strategy to see.
I'm not going to lie. I think that's why Bryce had such an advantage. Again, we talked about the way he was dropping back. That field was so fluffy and so wet, and it was so freaking cold. When he dropped back, he wasn't planting his feet hard until he was about to throw. He dropped back, and it looked like he was doing it at 1 mile an hour, 3-step drop. The second he saw somebody up or needed to throw, he'd set his feet and make the proper pass. But I think they really did play through those elements really, really well.
And I thought with playoffs on the line, we were going to get a good battle, get everything out of that. Whenever they came out and got the touchdown, get the onside kick after that long lull, 2 plays later, basically getting a touchdown again. I thought that kind of just took it out of Piketon, which, Piketon, they lose to Uniola, then they almost beat Paint Valley, and then Paint Valley comes back and beats them. So kind of underachieving year there for Piketon.
Well, that's the thing with Piketon and Westfall. They kind of had the tale of 2 seasons where Westfall got off to such a slow start, Piketon got off to such a hot start, and then Westfall kind of comes back, evens it up, or not evens it up, but they come back they start having a better season. They were kind of on the peak of their season. They were having the upswing, whereas Piketon was more on the downswing, and I feel like that kind of came into play as well.
Oh, yeah, and then
I didn't realize how much we had talked a lot, even during the game, about how much Westfall's improved from last year on defense because they just kept getting smoked on defense last year, so they had no chance to even win, even though they were putting up a lot of points. But they fixed it. But I didn't realize a lot of the offensive stars were the ones that fixed the defense. They were dogs.
It's almost
like oh my God.
They took the year last year to learn everything about offense, and then when they learned everything about offense, just applied it to the defensive end.
I feel like we talked about how much they've improved since last season. Well, how much did they improve during just this season alone?
Yeah. I mean, and one thing about Westfall is they have some very passionate fans out there. Is that right?
I loved it,
They were on fire, dude. I mean, every single ref pun, like every single time there's a tackle, like get the rule book out. Might not know if that's right or not, but that was insane. I've never seen a ref just run off the field like that in the middle of a game.
It was the way he did it was so brazen that I almost feel like he knew people thought he was getting run away, and then he came out with the book and got on the gator.
That's what I thought was
he
crazy.
was all BA, and I'm like, come
the
on,
guy
man.
goes and picks him up the gator. He's like, don't worry about it. I got this in turbo.
Yeah.
Another good game on the Friday. Pay Valley lost a heartbreaker coach to the Pios. Man, we kind of talked about it. Almost everybody in the SVC got screwed on the schedule because it was like you played Uniola then St. Trace, or vice versa. You played St. Trace then Uniola. That's a hard back-to-back. But some good news out of that is Friday night is Braylon, officially the leading single-season rusher with 1,850 yards on the season. So congratulations to Braylon.
Just an animal out there.
Shu, what are your thoughts on Payne Valley Friday and the season?
Well, first of all, Braylon passed a hell of a lot of really good runners.
Colton Morrison, Tegan McFadden, just to name a couple.
Andy Anderson, Ben Burke.
Yeah.
I mean, Todd Walker.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were big time. So he deserves all the accolades he gets. But our problem, I'm not a football coach, but our problem is, we're a running team for the most part, and when we get behind, that takes away our run. We got to start passing a little bit, and then we get in a little bit of trouble. It's hard to catch up. But we still made the playoffs. We're playing a 2-win team, but But Parkway, I don't know what their schedule is.
You don't know who they've played, how good they.
They made the playoff by winning 2 games, so their competition must have been pretty good.
That's what I was thinking. Is if you're in there at 2 wins, who are those 2 wins? Kind of like you said.
They're probably not a 2-win, 8-loss school either. They're probably haven't played a full schedule.
Yeah, probably had some cancellation
games.
games.
Well, that's true.
I'm trying to. But, they come off of a big win. They're playing, like we were talking about, I think it's Middletown. Oh, no, that is Parkway. Pioneers make it, and they're playing Middletown-Madison. I don't know anything about Middletown-Madison. It looks like they are 4-6. Doesn't look like they've beaten really any. So they start out 4-0. 6 straight L's. So it looks like they got into conference play and they
fell apart.
Yeah, they played.
No, and they got smoked.
Like not close at all.
Yeah, like 42-7.
Yeah.
42 to.
Last game game was a nail biter, 31-7. So
I'm not sure how I feel about the playoffs now. It seems like it's
How does
less
that make
of a.
sense?
Clay
Like, I
said
feel like they should look at Piketon and be like, just go ahead in front of these
It
guys.
seems like it's less of an honor when all
Yeah.
these teams get in.
Clay said it
you know.
best. The first week of the playoffs technically starts in week 2 of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
week
like-
2 of the
Yeah.
playoffs is the old
Yeah.
school
week
players.
one,
And
yeah,
if you go
that's
before that, there's been a bunch of Paint Valley teams I know that have gone undefeated, won a gold ball, but it used to only be like 4 or 6 teams.
Yeah. Yep.
So they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and now
there's
you
a-
have 2 and 8 teams.
There's a 10-0 Vinton County team way back in the day. I want to say in like 1990. That
Yeah.
that didn't. They won the TVC championship, didn't go to the playoffs, and that was
'Cause there was
their,
so
their
much-
only undefeated
Yeah.
season. You know.
You really truly had to be a good team. Now, like, I don't know if they could do something where, like, hey, the playoffs start this week, but we'll let you schedule an extra game or something like that, kind of like a bowl thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of agree
Maybe
with you,
a
Shu.
wild card situation.
Yeah.
where, like
That would be kind of crazy.
The one seeds don't play week 1 or something
That's-
like that.
I mean,
or week
but
one of
it-
the playoffs.
The only cool thing about it is last year it did provide a Maple Leaf game in the playoffs.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was kind of cool, but yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, sure. I thought, 10 might be okay. 8, I think it was 8 whenever I was in school. But man, 16.
I think it went from 4 to 8 because when Vinton County went 10-0, the very next year they went to
16 teams
8,
make it
and then
out of
they-
each
Yeah.
region.
Yeah, Paint Valley was 10-0 in 1990 and never made it, and they
Yeah.
were maybe the best team we've
Is
ever
that
had.
with Drake Stanforth's dad?
No, Todd Shoemaker was
Todd,
the
yeah,
quarterback.
Todd Shoemaker. In
That's
there.
that's the same way with the Vinton
Yeah,
County team.
I think
That's
it
like
was-
they were the best.
I
in
think
school
that was the
history
same
team.
year, actually.
Um,
Close to it.
But yeah, Unioda, they obviously make the playoffs. They win the gold ball. Newt Hoops broke another record, most passing yards in a single season. So shout out to Newt. I'm sure he's getting tired of hearing us clap at him because he's broken literally every single record there is for a quarterback at Unioda. Should be a win for him against Urbana at home this Friday, guys. But, when it comes to playoffs, Urbana doesn't seem like a terrible team. They're coming in at 7-3. So as a 2 seed,
There's really no bad teams in the playoffs. Like,
yeah, as a 2 seed, that's a hard draw. They played London last week, which we know is a powerhouse. They lost that 49-7. But they have the capability. It looks like a lot of their wins they're scoring. I mean, they beat Belmont week 1, which is 1-8. Take this with a grain of salt. But they beat them 76-0. But it looks like when they're playing good teams, they've played a 7-3 team, an 8-2 team, and a 10-0 team, all losses. So if they're playing a team over 500, that's good for Unioda.
It's all about who you play.
Yeah.
When you played for me, that one year we won 10 games. We were 10-12 or something, and went on the tournament run because of our schedule was so good.
Old Mad Money Mike hitting in those threes.
We were playing D2s and D3s, and we were D4 though.
Hey, I'll pride myself on this. We never ever lost to a Division IV school until district finals every year.
Yep.
So that's always a good thing. But yeah, they win their first gold bowl since I think it was '82 is what I want to say. So congratulations to them.
First
But-
gold ball since '82, first championship since '98.
Yes, and first championship since '99 of Vinton County. You were at the game this Friday, Adam, as an alum. How was it, man?
Oh, it was nice. I'll tell you that. It was living vicariously through those kids. It was definitely nice. It was something that I'm glad that got brought back home.
Yeah, because not to be an ass, but when you were in high school, it was
No, it was
Not-
1-9,
not well,
1-9.
yeah.
They finally flipped the script and they got 9-1. I think my junior year we were 5-5. So at 500 was the best year I saw while in school.
Yeah, and they're saying that this is again, this came out as the #1 offense in Vinton County history, #2 defense in Vinton County history, statistically wise.
Yeah,
So
scored, most points.
yeah,
What?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
insane.
How's that 2?
That hey,
No, that 10-0 team. That's what I'm saying. It is regarded as like the
Okay.
best. Like there's a guy on there who broke his leg 2 games in, led the TVC in sacks, and then also still went Division I, having not played but 2 games his senior year. So
You
I
can
mean,
go
they
like
were-
look at a score
they also had a
tracker
guy
for Vinton
for
County
Navy,
sometimes.
yeah.
It takes you like 25 minutes just because like it'll be like defensive highlights and this, and you're just sitting there like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, come on. I sat down here for
Oh.
2 minutes of coffee and I'm here for 25 minutes.
dude, we were talking down there to one of their defensive linemen, and it looked like he just got off a 9-5.
Yeah.
James Swaim.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't remember his name, but yeah, we were talking to James Swaim down there, and he sat down, and I'm like, "You're older than me, man."
No, we were looking for a kid, not a coach.
Yeah, like I thought he was gonna hit me with his bench warmer birth certificate which says "I am 12" with like a $10 bill in it. But yeah, they make the playoffs. Sadly, it's not home. I thought that was kind of surprising. You're only a one-loss team. You don't get a home playoff game.
They're in a tough region. I think they finished 10th. So
yeah,
it's,
and they're going up against a very good Gallia team. I still think that Vinton County has a chance to win that, but going up against at Gallia, that's going to be a tough one. But
It's always tough anytime you're going into another high school's home turf, especially if it's a playoff team. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of that home field advantage is just always kind of tough.
But if there's a
to
team
overcome.
that has the mentality to play on the road, to be that bracket buster, TJ's got him ready, dude. I'm telling you,
Absolutely,
I'm feeling it.
yeah.
I don't know what Gallia is or what a Gallia is, so I'm definitely going Vinton County.
I'm definitely going Vinton County.
Love to hear it, Tony. I love to hear it.
He's the man, dude. I'm just telling
You can't go
they
against
are a bunch of-
Vikings either.
I really can't. Plus, we smoked them in the NFC Championship that one year. So
Sorry, I had to send Derek the picture. So we're talking about rankings, talking about first times. College football top 25 has officially come out this week, guys. Sorry. I couldn't pull it up. I'm sorry. But it looks like, Georgia's staying at number 1. Ohio State staying at 3. It looks like it kind of stayed the same.
2.
Yeah.
Two?
Hey, Michigan is cheating. How do you feel about that, Coach? How do you feel about Michigan being big old cheaters?
I don't like anything Michigan does, so
Hey,
Michigan mind readers,
to
baby.
quote
I
Uncle
hope they
Chael
throw the
Sonnen,
book at 'em.
if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
That's true. That's true. And I take that as hard as well. I mean, but I don't like Michigan, so I don't want them to
I feel
win.
that.
Notre Dame, they didn't have a game this week, so we didn't really drop in the rankings at all in that. Sorry, guys.
USC sucks.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
suck.
Lost to Utah third year in a row. Caleb Williams is not the truth, Tony.
He's not, and he's damn sure not getting any partial ownership, which we can kind of talk about too. That it was mentioned that his agent said he wants partial ownership from whatever team he gets drafted to. Those old Caucasian men sitting up there in that NFL booth would never give up any of that. Do you know what kind of loyal crew that is? That means that he's invited to every cigar party.
Tom Brady couldn't even ask for that on his
He was
last
the
contract
closest
with
one.
the Patriots.
I was about to
you
say,
know?
I think he was the closest one down in Tampa, or
right
I think it
before
was
we left the
may have
Patriots,
been
there were
the
like
Dolphins.
6 championships, but now we're good.
I think it was the Dolphins
Oh,
offered
yeah, that
partial
too,
ownership,
yeah.
and he just said no and went to Tampa because it was a better team, and then the Dolphins got in trouble for that, I think, or some shit like that.
yeah.
Dolphins get in trouble a lot down there in Miami.
They got in trouble in Philly yesterday.
You know who should have got in trouble? The refs that called this touchdown back. MVD, I seen the video of this. So Iowa had a punt return, right? Game was, I want to say 13-10, all right? 1 minute and some change to go. Iowa is receiving the punt. The guy goes to point at it to grab it, gets it, returns it for a touchdown to win the game, and then it gets called back for a fair catch. So here it is. So he's pointing.
He's telling them to get away from the
Yeah.
ball, right? His teammates.
And then he grabs it and runs. They call this a fair catch, though.
As far as I'm concerned, when he's moving that left hand, it's because he's running. He's at a full sprint. You can't expect his arm to be deadlocked.
Yeah.
You know, he's in a running motion.
And then, so they go and they get the touchdown. This puts them up 17-13, right? Gets called back on fair catch. Iowa does not go down and score. And Iowa loses 12-10.
Was that Bryce Wickline? Did you see that guy? He was just like,
It is next year whenever he's going.
yeah, exactly.
Sure, what do you think about that?
I guess they thought when he was waving his own players away from the ball, they thought it was a fair catch, but it clearly was not.
That's what I thought. I thought he was kind of trying to tell him, like, hey, I'm getting it, like, go start blocking. Yeah, because normally when you're doing a fair catch, you're throwing your arms up in the air trying to grab it.
There's at least one of these motions, you know. There's like
Yeah.
a high,
I think
like
when
a
he
high five
takes-
with the sky.
When he takes off, like, I feel like you kind of got to be like, oh, he didn't fair catch. That was just a little hand. Like, I feel like if I'm the ref,
Yeah.
I'm looking at it and be like, he's not going to take off if he fair caught it. And if he did, the other team, maybe you could do, like, some type of challenge or
And
something.
two, why
but
did you let it
you
go
can't
that
nab it.
long before you called?
Yeah.
Hey, no.
Blow whistles
That's
dead
kinda
as soon
what
as
I
he
mean.
touches it, you know.
Yeah.
And if you're letting it go, then you got to let it be a touchdown at that point. And then another one, Derek, I seen a video of this one, too. We found the most valuable coach, Shu. Now, there's a coach for Rice that his one job is to pass out gummy worms. So it looks, if you get a big tackle, if you make a big play, he's walking on the sidelines handing out the gummy worms. I think Derek has the video here. And he has a stone-cold look, too. I mean, he is an absolute killer
These
mentality.
are earned gummy.
Yes.
Like,
So here's his job. Yes, so this is the Rice coach. He's passing out gummy worms, and it looks like he's kind of eating some for himself, and I can't say I wouldn't do the same.
you have to test quality.
Yes. You gotta
It's
make sure
cold
they're not
outside.
poisonous. Yes.
Maybe you got to get them closer to a heater because they're cold. You start biting into something hard during a game, it's not necessarily going to be ideal.
It would be really bad if you bit into a frozen gummy worm in the middle of the game. Then that coach has to tell the head coach, hey, sorry, I kind of gave a guy a frozen gummy worm and his teeth just fell out.
Yeah. And to be honest, I like the earned gummy worm things. That's why the guy should be stern. If he's just walking around like a joker, you know what I mean? That better be like, just handed out for sugar bursts or something.
Yeah,
But
if you guys are wondering what's up with the gummy worms, it's just to give them a little bit of energy back.
shout the linebackers coach. I believe you were the linebackers coach for Paint Valley. Also a gummy worm. Band.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tony
we were
said
up
that
in
he
the
got
booth.
some.
First game 1, I'm up there. I did have a bag of beef stroganoff in my pocket. He exchanged some gummy worms. He did
wait.
not partake in beef stroganoff.
You had beef stroganoff in your pocket?
Now, you may make fun of me for this, but I think an ideal carrier for some foods is the baggie. Now, the reason why is because if I'm driving, the container's difficult. It can kind of go places. I can put a baggie in a cup holder. I can put a baggie in my pocket. To be honest with you, as soon as I'm done with it, now, I can literally eat it like a popsicle. I had that beef stroganoff, bag open, squeeze, boom.
It's like a push pop.
I
beef
am driving to
stroganoff.
Paint Valley. I don't know where I'm driving to with half of these stadiums, so I'm driving to Paint Valley, starving after work, and I'm eating the beef stroganoff. No utensil, nothing on my face, nothing. Well done.
So beef stroganoff on the go is your go-to? Shu, what is your thoughts on the beef stroganoff to go? I think
Hey.
might be a new $1 million idea.
If it works for him, I say do it. I mean,
Beef stroganoff to go. Wait, so what else have you put in your pocket on the go?
Oh, man, Andy would be able to help me out with this. I've showed up to the games with some pretty crazy stuff. I know some formulated pizzas that got messed up in my car, not even from Giovanni's. That was I believe it was a hot dog on top of a pizza because the bun.
Oh,
Hold on, I didn't
jeez.
eat it like that, though. I didn't eat it like that. It was just for pure walking it up to the stadium. And the hot dog that I had one of those hard roll sides. Like the one side was so hard, you just rip it off, and then it's the one side. Other side was
If you
unsuccessful.
can't enjoy a nice pocket dog, I don't know if I can be your friend.
I'll tell you this, I'm going to eat. Like, I will eat. And whatever it takes for me to do that, if it's a greasy stained pocket, if it's a pocket full of pizza rolls, I don't find me,
Oh,
bud.
pocket full-
tater tots in the pocket. Napoleon
Okay, I'll
Dynamite
go.
style.
I was about to say I'll go with tater tots in the pocket just because it's legendary.
What about pocket dog? Rafi, the league.
I feel like
pocket dogs.
I
dude.
feel like the tots are just better.
These same eating habits are probably why I sharted on the way to the other game.
Yeah, that's true. He literally started on the way to the
I
Bay
just
Valley
stopped
game.
at my
It was terrible.
sister's and just do some quick fix. But
That was a legendary story. But what a terrible way to introduce our legendary guest, our Maryland point guard from 1964 to 67, guys. We're talking about 668 collegiate wins. That is 5th all time in history. 3 ACC regular season champions, 2 Final Four appearances while winning the 2002 national championship with Maryland. Hall of Famer and Duke hater, Gary Williams.
I'm fellas, how you doing?
Gary, how's it going, my friend?
It's going well.
Hey, so
Sounds like you guys are having a good time.
hey,
sir.
that's all we do, especially when Shu's on the show with us. He helps influences the good time, but I'm sure you know that as well.
Oh yeah, you had many good times, especially at summer basketball camp at Maryland.
Yeah, he told me that he was the head honcho, as I would say, down there, Coach.
I was the commissioner. That's a
Commissioner head honcho.
that's a fancy way of saying that I didn't do a whole lot except just make sure everything kind of ran right. Yeah,
sounds cool.
Hey,
it was great.
So, Gary, my first question I had to ask you is, how many times did you beat the Puke Blue Devils?
I really don't know. I never counted it up. I know we got a good one when I was at Boston College too. We played them in the Sweet 16 game down in Eustis, and that was Mike Krzyzewski's. The next year was Mike Krzyzewski's first Final Four team, and that was Tommy Amaker, Dawkins, Mark Allery, Jay Billis was on that team, and we had Michael Adams. It was really a good win for us.
Heck yeah. You talk about being at Boston College and then you're going at Maryland. That makes me want to ask you about the old ACC. I mean, with Maryland, kind of they leave, they go to the Big Ten now. These kind of super conferences are coming around. But if you look back to the ACC in the 90s, in the early 2000s, I mean, that was probably the best basketball conference in the country that you got to be a part of. Could you just kind of talk about that a little bit with us?
Yeah, when I got to Maryland in '89, I think 90, 91, Duke won back-to-back, and North Carolina won the next year. So that's what you were facing in the ACC. You were going to have two teams probably in the top 10 every year before the season started. So you faced that every year. You knew that was coming. And of course, players like Tim Duncan, Chris Paul at Wake Forest came through there. And, Florida State had a bunch of great players play for them with Leonard Hamilton down there. And, Clemson was always tough, especially down there. There was no easy way out in Virginia.
North Carolina.
It was Virginia. So, and NC State, so there was – It was a 9-team conference, Georgia Tech with Bobby Cremins, and it was just every night was a great game. And when I coached in the Big East, it was the same way. I mean, you look at the coaches in the Big East. I was there 82 to 86. You had John Thompson, Rolly Massimino, Jim Boeheim, PJ Carlissimo, Rick Pitino. You go right down the list, and so there's no night when you have a really good conference and there's only 8 or 9 teams. There's no nights off,
Right.
And I when I went to the Big Ten in '86, there was no conference tournament. You played 9 conference teams and 18 games, and that was it. Whoever was the best team, they deserved it. They earned their way. There was no, well, we only play these guys once, or we only play these guys twice. So it was really fair, and it was competitive. It always was.
And you're talking about, just some small names here, Chris Paul, Tim Duncan, no big deal. But I know a player that Shu was telling me that's kind of near and dear to your heart. Walt Williams is a player that actually decides to stay after you take over at Maryland. What does that kind of mean to you, and what does that help? Because whenever you take over Maryland, if people look back, they were kind of not great, as we will say. You kind of brought them up from the bottom all the way to the promised land. What did Walt Williams staying there kind of help you establish your tradition and your culture there?
Well, it was, and there was so much with Walt Williams. For instance, he gave back a full scholarship once he went to the NBA after he graduated in 4 years at the University of Maryland. His senior year, I guess that was 91, he averaged 25 points a game. He scored over 30, 7 straight ACC league games. And
Jeez.
Nobody's ever done that since. Nobody ever did it before. And he could play 4 positions for you. He was 6'8", but he could play some point. And we just ran we weren't real good, but we could run enough stuff to get him open. And he was phenomenal. I remember against Florida State, he had 39. Florida State had Charlie Ward, the football player, was the point guard on that team. Wow. Bobby Serra, who played in the NBA, was on that team. Sam Cassell, who still coaches in the NBA and a great NBA player, was on that team. And then Dobarge and Edwards were the 2 inside players, and they both played in the NBA. So Walt goes down and gets 39 at Florida State against him.
That's insane.
He was so he first of all, he was smart. He knew how to get open. You didn't have to teach him a lot of things about getting open. And the other guys were good guys because they were willing to just set screens if that's what it took to get them open. And, it was a good combination for us.
And you're going off that. He's a great player and everything. But he worked hard. And what I kind of noticed out of looking back on most of your teams, you see the Steve Blakes, the Steve Francises, a bunch of these players that they weren't just amazing basketball players. They worked tremendously hard. Being under Coach Shu, he was a big preacher of hard work, saying that he got it from you. So I guess I want to ask from the Cow itself, what is hard work to you? What's one of the big staples of getting a player to play above maybe the potential that he feels like he can?
Well, Dave knows this, and I was a high school coach for 3 years coming out of Maryland, and I learned there that my job as a coach was to walk in as prepared as any player could prepare for practice. And so I didn't waste a lot of time during the day doing a lot of the things. I probably neglected some things that I should have been doing with the program, but I wanted to be able to walk into that practice situation and do a good enough job where at the end of the day we were a better team than when we started practice that day. And that was always very important to me. And I had a good, solid fundamental coach. His name was Bud Milliken when I was at Maryland, and he played for Hank Iba out at Oklahoma State. And Hank Iba was kind of the inventor of good man-to-man, help defense, that type of thing. And so you learn the fundamentals from him. And I think when you have great talent, you have to make sure that you're still not overlooking little things about how to play basketball. And Dean Smith's the best example. He coached. The joke with Dean Smith was the only guy to hold Michael Jordan under 20 points a game. Well what he did for Michael Jordan was, as physically talented as Michael Jordan was, he made him probably as smarter than most NBA players. And so you couple his talent with his fundamental skills. That's why he might be the greatest player ever.
Coach, you taught me that players think they're playing hard, but they can always play harder. A kid thinks he's working as hard as he can, but he's not.
Right.
You know how.
Oh, trust me, I understand.
Yeah, and they can always go harder than they think they are going.
Yeah.
And I think that's, Dave, I'm sure you did it. There's got to be a way to motivate guys. Sometimes it isn't always pretty, and I think it might be easier back when I was coaching, because now with the NIL and the transfer portal, you worry about that, I'm sure, as a head coach. You don't want guys leaving your program. You want them to be there. So maybe, maybe you take a little easy on a player when you should be on his butt, and trying to get him to play harder, because I always felt that was the worst. I always felt as a coach, if a player was finished his eligibility in my program and I felt he never reached his potential. And, you take responsibility for that as a coach. And what that does, it also helps that player as he becomes a man and goes off and has a family or whatever, because he's got that drive. He has that drive in him now to be successful in life. And, if you let a guy slide, he's going to keep sliding as he goes along the way. And I always felt, as a coach, your responsibility with your players is you're trying to win games, but at the same time, you want him to be in the best possible situation, whether it's leaving a high school program or leaving a college program. You want him to be successful.
And I feel like the reason that people worked hard for you is because when you see a coach hard, it makes you play hard. And you are one of the hardest coaches I've ever watched coach. Shu told me a great story that you yelled at one of your Coach Dickerson's, because he wasn't sweating enough. Coach, if you could elaborate on that story a little bit.
Coach, you can.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave was he was smooth. He was. He's the head coach at South Carolina Upstate now, Division I program. He had a pretty good year last year. But Dave was always impeccably dressed, and like after about a minute in the game, I wasn't, and he was. I look back at the game, and it's like we're playing Duke, we're down 1 with 10 seconds left, and he's not sweating at all.
It's like, come on, man.
Everything's fine. We're okay. But Dave was one of the great guys that, having, Billy Hahn, Dave Dickerson, Jimmy Patz, those guys like that on my staff at Maryland certainly, helped me a lot, because those guys could have put up with me. They were good basketball people. They really cared about the University of Maryland. Both Dave and Billy Hahn played at the University of Maryland, and so they had their feelings about the school just like I did. So it was a great situation with those guys, and you sometimes you get lucky with the staff. When I went to Ohio State, my staff was the first year was Rick Barnes, came up from Alabama as an assistant coach. I had Jim Clemens, who went with Phil Jackson.
Oh, wow.
I guess part of 10 NBA championships. And Randy Ayers, who took over for me when I went to Maryland. And Randy had a team that I think they missed a jump shot against the Fab Five to go to the Final Four the one year. So,
Oh wow.
You get people like that around you, and it's kind of like a checks and balance situation where if you miss something in practice, you're not seeing something, you depend on the other eyes to pick up on that. And that's what I think great assistants do in terms of their basketball. What they can contribute is really keep an eye out for a player that, something's wrong with that player. It just doesn't seem right today. Or, I might not see it because I'm so focused on the man offense or something like that. And, when you have a staff of guys that, know the game well enough and can have a feel for the players, then you have a really good staff.
Shu let out Dickerson's secret though on how he got to sweat.
Yeah, Dave, you can verify this or prove it wrong, Coach. Dave Dickerson told me one time that after you talked to him about not sweating, he wore a long sleeve T-shirt under his suit so he would sweat more.
I'm tired of getting yelled at for not
He told me that once.
He might have. I don't know. He never told me that, but Dave was he was had just finished playing when I got there in '89, and he was an assistant coach at a couple of places. Then we finally were able to get him back on our staff, and he's just he's gone through a lot as a coach. His wife had cancer and passed with cancer about 3 years ago, and he still maintained. He had a son who did a great job in school. He graduated in engineering from Clemson, and just Dave was a strong guy. He had to be to go through what he went through, and I really am happy that he's now Division I head coach at South Carolina Upstate, and we talk every once in a while, and I'll have to ask him about that.
Coach, I got one more question for you. I know the guys got some for you. You've been, like we said, an absolute legend. You're in the Hall of Fame. You've had Maryland's court named after you. What have you had a time now to kind of look back on your career and kind of soak it all in and be like, wow, I was really part of some special stuff, or what's it like whenever you do look back on the amazing career that you've had?
Well, when you're fortunate, you're fortunate because there's a lot of good coaches out there that never got into a situation where they could do certain things and accomplish things. I was coming out of Maryland in '68. The Vietnam War was going on, and I had already had my physical. I was from South Jersey, the Camden area there in Jersey, and so I went up and checked in with my draft board, which I had to do back then, and I had just had a chance to get a high school coaching job at Woodrow Wilson High School in Camden, New Jersey. And I told the board that, and all of a sudden the board says, well, you go take that job and we'll monitor it and everything, but you don't have to go into the Army. And
wow.
What it was, Camden was, back then they called it a deprived area. It's a very poor area, things like that. And so I got a chance to coach at age 23 as a JV coach. And then the varsity coach left. So at 24, I became the varsity coach, and we really had a good team. We had a great player from Columbus, Ohio, believe it or not. His name was Harold Solinger. He was the uncle of the Solinger that played for Ohio State and played for the Celtics later on. So he was our center, and we had 4 really good guys that could play the other 4 positions. And we won the state championship in New Jersey. Went 27-0. So that, being that young and having that opportunity to coach, players with that type of ability certainly helped me. And so you get some breaks along the way, but you have to take advantage. And the other side of that is to get into college coaching at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania. They never had a full-time assistant basketball coach before on their staff. It was always the baseball coach or whatever was the assistant coach. And so the soccer coach left, and that was the money in the budget to pay that person. So I had to coach soccer. I was the head men's soccer coach for 6 years.
Sure, he killed that too. Don't worry.
And the assistant basketball coach. So you do some things. I didn't want to be the soccer coach, but I didn't know anybody. I couldn't get into college coaching without taking that job with Tom Davis, who was a great coach.
Especially in that area.
I'm sure there's a bunch of kids that have gone up to people and be like, hey, Gary Williams is my soccer coach. And they're like, yeah, shut up, dude. Like, you're full of shit. I don't believe him. That's absolutely insane. Gary, I know the boys had some questions for you, if you don't mind. Tony?
Sure.
Honestly, I guess we'll keep going with what you just said. I'm actually from a similar area. You're from the other side of the bridge, but I'm from Philadelphia suburb. I was born in Manayunk and then moved outside to Malvern. So
Sure.
you know that area down there, but he says would have been tough to get any type of college job there. Like, I mean, when you're talking the Big East and some of those schools that are down around that area, or just the Philly 5 there with LaSalle and stuff, there was a lot of storied programs down there. But one thing that I wanted to touch on earlier is you kind of talked about you wanted to make your players better. You felt like you had an obligation to do that. I wanted to ask you, is that our area that we're from is very specific. It's a very, we want to say blue collar and things like that, but we appreciate hard work and we always want to leave people stronger or better than we were before. Is that from where you're from, or do you feel like that's just something you?
Yeah, I think. Plus, it was really back then. And Dave, you played on outdoor courts. You played on concrete. You weren't worried about your knees that would hurt. I'm not going to. When I go to the league, my knees will be hurt. No, I won't. You never heard that. Guys. You could get games.
Throw some dirt on it.
In Philadelphia we'd go over and play sometime. We'd take our guys over and play. And you'd play against all the great players in Big Five. Back then, the Big Five was the premier conference in the 60s. And, you just played and you played and you didn't care. You were just outside. You called your own fouls. There was no leagues. There was no AAUs. There was
I've got
nothing.
my butt kicked
I was
at
about
ninth
to
and
call your own
Passyunk.
fouls. I don't call anything. I don't want people to yell at me.
At 9th and Passyunk, I went down. It's right beside where the cheesesteaks are, and I'm literally like, hey, I'll throw my hat in that barrel over there. I made 2 straight shots. Got whooped. But I mean, literally, the next time I even grabbed the ball, I got whooped.
Right.
The rest of that game, I did not shoot again, but it was a blast.
It did not call a foul.
But it was definitely tough down there, so I can definitely speak on the type of basketball. But I wasn't good enough to worry about, getting hurt and stuff like that. Because if I missed a couple games, I don't think Coach cared too much.
The coach probably might have been happy about that.
Yeah, playing Episcopal Academy and places like that down there, pretty tough. But it was.
Who coached at Malvern
Prep?
Malvern Prep was. It was Fran Dunphy at Malvern Prep, I think, for a while. The coach at LaSalle.
Pre-Temple?
Yeah, pre-Temple. He was on my staff at American U. I got him down to American U, and then
that's so sweet. So the court that I played all of my ball on was on the other side of that forest at Malvern Prep, so there was a trail through it. So Malvern Prep used to come up, and those boys used to be the ones that we would call hoity-toity, and we were the ones, right underneath that, I guess, because Malvern's not that hard anyways. Also, shout Camden. You said Camden used to be known as a kind of raggedy area. I didn't want to interrupt you on the spot. What is Camden known as now, if not a raggedy area, sir?
Well, Camden had 2 things. They had Campbell Soup, was made there, and they had RCA, an old television company. And they both basically left, and it took all the tax base out of the city.
Yeah.
And so the poor people in Camden, just had, it was really a struggle there. And but Camden High was one of the greatest high school basketball teams ever, anywhere, because I think 4 straight years they won this state championship, and all the guys at Louisville and the Wagner family was all Camden High. That if there's a new Wagner going to Kentucky this year too, as part of that family.
Have you ever met up with Sonny Hill?
With who?
Sonny Hill. He's
I knew Sonny Hill well because we used to go over there, and he had the Baker League, which was the pro league. That he was running that, but there was also a very good high school league over there. So when I was at Lafayette, we recruited that a lot. It was only an hour and a half from Lafayette. So yeah, very familiar with Sonny Hill. Sonny Hill was a good player. He could really shoot.
I love him. I listen to him every Sunday. He, to me, if there's any young players out there to listen to Philadelphia Sports Talk Radio on Sundays, he calls it the living room. And, man, it really is. Like, I aspire for our show to even be 1/8 of as cool as Sonny Hill's show out there. But he talks old ball and stuff like that. But, Coach, thanks for going down Philly lane because out in Ohio I don't get to talk too much about that area or even the way that, quote-unquote, we are.
Coach, I know somebody else has a question for you. Adam here, I know he had a couple questions for you.
Yeah, so one question I was wanting to ask you is, of all the places you've coached, what is your favorite place that you have coached at, like court-wise, that's not been Maryland or OSU?
I like, you've had to be there at Cameron, where Duke played.
Yeah.
You walked out there, the one sideline, you only have 3 feet before those idiots that stood there and waved all the time. You know that wave they do there. They point at the players
Super
and all that
cool.
stuff. Well,
Yeah.
they're 3
So
feet
cool.
away from the court. Referees can't get an angle on that side of the court. They can't get low enough where they get a good view of what's going on. And, it's a tremendous home court. That was great. The other place, when I was at Ohio State playing in Indiana, that was the
Hell yeah.
cathedral. You play out there, and it was incredible. And Bobby Knight, he was, I've never saw, he controlled that crowd
Yeah.
better than anybody I've ever seen. In other words, if he stood up, the whole crowd stood up.
Yeah.
If he yelled at a referee, he booed. The crowd booed.
Yeah.
If he turned around and looked at the crowd to stop booing, they stopped booing. It was.
He had more power than the
In
governor.
addition to how good of a coach he was,
Yeah.
it was like, it was like being in church with a choir director.
Yeah, my dad grew up in Brownsburg, Indiana. Went to a lot of camps under Bobby Knight, and he said he was one of the most intense coaches that he had been around. But my dad told me, he said, the governor of Indiana could have told me to do something, and Bob Knight could have told me to do something. I'm going to listen to Bob Knight over the governor.
Yeah. Hey, you guys know that's like the Ohio State football coach.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then my second question was, who was your favorite coach to coach against? Like maybe somebody that you would get into like chess matches with on the court. When it came to calling the X's and O's.
When I got to Maryland and he was there, background, Dean Smith became the coach at North Carolina like 1961. Well, I got there at Maryland in 63, so I played against Dean Smith each of the 3 years you were allowed to play varsity back then. And so I knew him a little bit but from a player standpoint. So when I come to Maryland in 89, Dean Smith's still the coach. And he was really, he didn't miss a beat. You've heard of coaches turning up the heat in the locker room before the game, the visiting team. They did it at Carolina, believe me. And, and they painted it pink to try to get you to calm,
all the stereotypes.
Yeah, and they did everything they could. Plus, they had great players, but it was he was so innovative. He was the reason they had to go with the shot clock. You do the 4 corners all the time, and the ACC tournament had games like 12 to 10 and things like that. So that's the reason the shot clock came into the game. I always thought in college, and he was just an innovator when they had the 3-point line. The ACC experimented one year with the line was like 17 feet 9 inches. The line went right through the free throw circle. And so
I would have been a great 3-point shooter.
Dean ran all his offense that year for that shot, and he was way ahead of the game there. And so he was very innovative, and he was a good guy. And he was funny. Here's one quick story. Bobby Cremins, who's really a good friend of mine, and we battled each other when he was at Georgia Tech, but Bobby was great. And when Mike Krzyzewski and Dean Smith weren't getting along early on, they got to be friends later on. But when I was there, they weren't really speaking a lot to each other. So we always had a league meeting at the end of the season. So Dean Smith would grab Bobby Cremins and I before we went in, and he'd say, get 2 seats and leave one in between you, because I'm going to sit between you so I don't have to sit next to Mike Krzyzewski. It was true, that was, that was a great
The hate
time.
was real.
Once again, that's a small conference, that's your 8-9 team conference where you get to know everybody really well, and no matter how bad it was during the season or how much you got upset at somebody, when it was all over, you were still coaches, you were fellow coaches, you were all proud of, the ACC or the Big Ten or wherever you were coaching.
I think my favorite story I've heard from Coach is you guys are playing Duke at Maryland, and there's one Duke guy in the middle of the student section with his Duke hat on, and Shu said that he looked up there, looked back, and when he looked back up there, student section has taken the hat and put it on fire and had it on a stick, like waving it like a white flag.
Yep, that happened.
What's some of your favorite memories of being a coach at Maryland? I know it was your alma mater, like you said, kind of where you're from. What's some of your favorite memories being a coach or a player there?
Well, the first one was when I got the job. Len Bias had died in 97 or 87. I'm sorry, and the interim coach Bob Wade came in, and there were sanctions against them. And so my first year there, we found out the last week of the season that we weren't going to be able to play on television for 2 years and could not participate in the NCAA for 2 years and lose 3 scholarships each of those years. So it really, hey, your first reaction is, well, I've finally done it. I moved to a situation where I can't win because, like I said, Duke and Carolina was really rolling. Wake was great. NC State was good. There was no easy out. And so finally in 3 years later, 94, we were able to have the year before a good freshman class, but we lost a lot of games with guys like Dwayne Simpkins, who now is the head coach of American U, X-Ray Hip, and Johnny Rhodes, the all-time steals leader in the ACC. And then as freshmen the next year, we got Joe Smith, the first player taken in the draft after 2 years, and Keith Booth, who was played at Dunbar High School in Baltimore. They won a national high school championship his junior year. And so that 5, we were able to beat Georgetown the opening game that year. And so we went that year, we got to the Sweet 16. The year before, we were only able to win 3 ACC league games. So that was one of the great things that got us started at Maryland. And I'll never forget that game because we were down 15 in the second half, and we came back and won it in overtime. So, it was against Georgetown, which had been a pretty good rival with Maryland back in the day.
Coach, I know you and Gary are close. Did you have any questions for him?
Yeah, Coach, you at Cole Fieldhouse to me was just my favorite arena in basketball. I mean, I loved the place. They never had air conditioning. It would get really hot.
Dave, Dave, you remember what we told the kids at camp? The air conditioning broke yesterday.
That's right. That's right.
Every year.
Every year it broke the day
right.
before camp.
But you were – I remember you telling me a story about when Texas Western, the all-black team, played in the national championship game against Kentucky, who was all white. Was that 1966 maybe? Yeah,
66. And they made the movie Glory Road on that.
Yeah, you were there, correct?
Yes, I was a junior, and we snuck in. Think about this, how things have changed. This is the Final Four. We snuck in the back door because the guy in the door was the same guy that when we played our games there, we went in there. So we were sitting there, and we had the first African-American player in the ACC, and Billy Jones. In fact, they just named what was Cole Fieldhouse is now the football practice facility, and it's called the Jones Hill. Darrell Hill was the first African-American football player at Maryland. So there's a lot of history in that game. And that game was amazing because nobody gave Texas Western a chance. And Texas Western was really good, but back then there was no television. So you didn't see a team play from Texas Western. You never got the opportunity to see them play. And they came out, and they were just flat out better than Kentucky.
Don Haskins, was he their coach? Haskins.
Who's that?
Don Haskins.
Yeah, Don Haskins, who Bob Knight revered. If you ever heard Bob Knight speak at a basketball clinic, he would always bring up Don Haskins as one of the guys that really, he formed his coaching attitude on. And here's a trivia question from that game. Who jumped center for Kentucky?
Oh, I'm not going to get that one. Shoe?
I have no idea.
Pat Riley.
Oh, wow!
It's in the new Showtime.
Yeah, you guys could probably get a beer in a bar with that trivia question.
Yeah,
hey,
for sure.
Chalk that one up to Gary Williams next time when we get that one right.
One more thing, Coach. I remember we were having it was the last day of camp one year, and you won't remember this, but that was the day the parents would all come in for the awards ceremony, and I was announcing. They gave me the microphone, and you said, "Hey, announce that we're going to gather at the closed end of Cole Fieldhouse for the awards ceremony," and I announced the parents, we'd like you to meet at the far end of the gym for the awards ceremony. Next thing I knew, you were in my face yelling at me, "Does this look like a gym to you?" You go, "This is Cole Fieldhouse, man. Michael Jordan played here."
Yeah.
I said, "I'm sorry."
You know,
It was an honest mistake.
they still show Jordan's dunk at the end of a game in Maryland in the 80s where he comes in and he kind of gets sideways to the basket.
Yep.
And the time's running out. North Carolina has the game won. It's not like it's a last-second score to win the game. So he does a little stuff with it, and he goes sideways and dunks it and just keeps on running, Dave, out of the tunnel there in Cole Fieldhouse into the locker room. And they still show that when they show highlights of Michael Jordan. So.
Yep.
Marin living on forever. That's insane.
You know,
Does this look like a gym to you? There's history made here.
I remember,
Michael Jordan.
I remember Billy Hahn just turned away and was laughing because I was getting my ass ripped.
Speaking of Billy Hahn was actually somebody that my dad, my uncle knew. I think my grandma even knew him just because of my dad. My stepdad was an AAU coach, which I know you love AAU, Coach Williams. But with him passing away this past year, and he's good friends with Shu as well. Could you speak on Billy and what he kind of meant for you at Maryland?
Yeah, he was at Ohio U. He was the head coach at Ohio U, so I knew him a little bit when I was at Ohio State. And, you know, it's one of those things, didn't work out at Ohio U for him. So when I got the Maryland job, I really, you know, I was going to bring Paul Brazo and Randy Ayers as my assistants because they were my assistants at Ohio State. And I really wasn't thinking much about anything else in terms. There's so many things you got to do when you get a new coaching job. But Billy called me, and he you know, and I knew him because he had played basketball at Maryland. He was in Ohio when I was there, and it just made sense. And then of course Randy Ayers got the head coaching job, so Paul Brazo stayed there with him. So I hired Billy, and Billy was there for 13 years. You know, he helped us get to the Final Four in 2001. And Billy had a good eye for players.
Yeah, he had a lot of NBA
obviously.
recruits.
Hmm?
He had a lot of NBA recruits, right? Like over, I want to say at least over 30, right?
You know, in recruiting, it's you know, but you know, it's just like practice. It's another set of eyes. You know, you want people to see a player because I'll see a player and I think, man, I don't think that guy's good enough. And then say Billy sees him and he says, "Nah, take another look at him. You know, he's pretty good," and that type of thing. And so back then, you were able to get players and develop them. They would stay 4 years. So that was an important part of recruiting, trying to see ahead what that player could be. You know, and so we had to find out if he'd be willing to work. And Billy was really good. We had a guard on the championship team and the Final Four team in 2001, Drew Nichols, and Billy did a good job with him because most people thought he couldn't handle the ball as a guard well enough to, you know, to be a good player in the ACC back then. But all he could do was make every jump shot he ever looked at, you know. And,
That's right.
You know, and like people say, well, you ever hear, hey, Dave, you've heard this, right? All he can do is shoot.
Yeah.
Well, the last time I checked, the name of the game was to try to put the ball in the basket.
That's right.
That's probably as important as anything you can do in the game. And so Drew Nichols turned out to be a great player, and he's with Denver now in the NBA. He's in a front office position.
Put a ring on it.
And one of the really good guys and great players for us. Even though he wasn't a starter on the championship team, he was a very important part of that team. And then his senior year was 2003, and he was a starter, and we got to the Sweet 16, and you know he was a great player on that team.
So, Coach, we just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come in and talk to us and be a part of this show. Now, we do extensive journalism here, so we're going to have some tough questions for you. I hope that you're ready. First off, what kind of music are you listening to, whether you're driving or before you got ready for a game back in the day? What were you throwing on the jukebox?
Well, you know, I like a lot of you try to stay a little current, but I like a lot of the old stuff. I was listening to Journey today a little bit.
Nice. Nice.
They were very good. And there's so much stuff like the Ronettes. If you like the Motown sound at all,
Oh, yeah.
I don't
Ronnie
listen to
Spector
anything
was
after
the lead
65.
singer.
I'll tell you that right now. Got a very old
she
soul
she
here.
married Phil Spector.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where she got the name, and they were a great group, and all the obviously the Beatles. I'm old enough to they were the impact they had was just incredible.
Don't get you started on that.
not just music, but the whole social fabric.
For sure.
Things changed with the Beatles. So
100%.
there's so many things out there that are good, and I like music. I think that was always back in the day when I was at Lafayette. There was no planes in our budget. We just drove everywhere to recruit. So I had all the stations as you got into different areas of the East. To pick up the good rock and roll stations. And Dave, one other thing, Johnny Holiday, our announcer for 40 years. He was a disc jockey, big time. He was in Cleveland as a disc jockey.
Really?
And he introduced the Beatles in their last concert in San Francisco. They did their last concert.
Whoa,
Yeah,
that's
A little more trivia.
It was at Candlestick Park, yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes,
Johnny
it was.
did that. Wow.
That's
Johnny
insane.
did that.
That's crazy.
Look at Maryland just producing legends out here.
So,
all right, Coach, one more. What is one of your favorite either movies or TV shows that you just, every time it comes on, you can't turn it off?
Favorite movie? I never watched many movies. When you're coaching, you
Yeah.
don't
My
have a
movie
lot
was
of time.
Phil.
But I liked, because of basketball. Obviously, everybody, I think any coach would like Hoosiers.
Oh,
that's
hell
not-
yeah. Little fun fact, the scene where the guy gets thrown into the trophy case filmed in my dad's old high school gym. They were going around
Really?
old school gyms in Indiana, and the players did not get to be in there in the crowd because that would have been considered paying the players.
I got you.
But, yeah, that's a little – so I'm glad you go with Hoosiers. That was an absolute classic. All right. I know I said that was the last one. I have one more because it's on the top of my head. What's your favorite meal? I got to know. Go-to meal.
Okay, you know where I'm from, right?
Yeah.
Give me a good cheesesteak.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All
Good
righty.
call.
Well, Coach Williams, again, we want to
and
say.
by the way, one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
Amoroso, the cheesesteak, a lot of people can cook the meat, put the cheese. The Amoroso rolls are the key to a good Philly cheesesteak.
I have said this
He's
100
been telling me for
times.
years.
The people in Ohio, they say, hey, what's the best cheesesteak around here? It's not hard to cook chopped steak, people. It's hard to get good bread.
Yeah.
The
Thank
bread
you.
around here is subpar. That's why there's not a good cheesesteak around here.
He has been on that hill forever.
I cannot
I
believe
re-
you just said that, sir.
I respect you a lot more for saying
Oh,
that.
my God.
Tony's life's complete.
Yes, it is. Well, Gary, again, thank you for making this man's day here. Thank you so much for coming on our show. It means it means so much to us to get to talk to a legend like you and having the great stories. I've heard so many stories in the cozy, but from Shu about you, so I'm glad I get to actually meet you. And
Coach, I got a shooting shirt on from the late 90s.
yes,
Maryland
he does.
shooting shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Did you steal that?
I
How'd you
might have.
Hey, he got me this too.
I
It might
might
be
have.
stolen, but I promise I'm not getting rid of it. It's an old 90s starter jacket.
And by the way, and this happens, during coaching, and Dave and I became very good friends as time went on there at the University of Maryland because Dave would come in and work the camps and everything. But one of the great people, and Dave, I really respect what you're doing for Paint Valley, the high school there.
Yes.
Yes.
That you're a big part of, and Board of Education and all those things. So keep it going, man. You're doing great.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, the Hall of Famer, Gary Williams. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Coach.
Coach.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Standing ovation.
Yeah,
on
standing
this one.
O.
Standing ovation.
Standing O.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. Shoo, you just got called up by Gary Williams and say, hey, keep doing it. We know who we're voting for next board of election time coming up. Man, what an
Did
electric
Gary Williams
interview.
just say the words Paint Valley?
He did. He never said
You know.
Indiana, Huntington, Picton, Westfall. He said Paint Valley.
Gary's one of those guys like Bob Huggins, who is misunderstood.
Yeah.
Because people just see him yelling at games, and they think he's intense, and they think he's like that all the time.
Passion.
He's obviously not.
Yeah.
You know, he's a good guy, man. He cares about his players.
I can say from being coached by you, playing for you, that just because you're loud and intense, that more means that you're passionate rather than just pissed off. You know what I mean?
I'm telling you, that's
But
why
him-
I don't always want to bring up Philadelphia, but sometimes when you look at people, you just have this. I don't care if a person's quiet, doesn't talk, or anything like that. They will be passionate. Everybody, I don't care.
I can't believe he answered the question about Philly cheesesteak and then interrupted you to point out that it was the bread.
Yeah.
And how many times have I
Sure,
say
you don't understand.
He
Since I
says it
met
all the
this
time.
He
man,
said,
he
wait a
goes,
minute, I want to add something
for a
else.
freaking decade, I've been saying this.
yes, ever since I met Tony, he said, it's the bread. It's
What
the
kind
bread.
of bread
It's-
was it?
Amoroso, but
Yeah,
it's
Amoroso.
dude. There's so many good ones down there, and again, like you can pick and choose, and there's so many different ones. But the bread is what changes throughout all of them. And I
When
literally,
he started talking, I looked over, I saw Tony stand up. I'm
You
like, if
saw
he
me
said-
get ready when
I
he
know.
said-
I said,
the
when
one
he
thing I-
says it's the bread, I am going to get an earful of this.
I literally felt it.
Tony's life has been made.
Tell you another quick story about Gary. I was out at a practice once in the mid-'90s, late '90s, and had a big center from Nigeria. His last name was Akizi, and he was pretty good, and was a really good guy. But Gary's, I don't know how old he is now, late 70s, but he's into amazing
He's like a
shit.
day over
He
25.
graduated high school or college in '66, so whatever that makes him. But Akizi said something to him. Kesey was 7'2", 320 pounds or whatever, and Gary's fit. He's always been fit and works out and everything. And Gary went up to him and said, "What'd you say?" Like that, and they were like chest bumping. And I promise you, there wasn't one person in Cole Fieldhouse that night that didn't think Gary would have kicked his ass.
It's like, I put my money on Gary. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, the dude's like a Rottweiler.
It was insane to hear him talk about, too, like, just name dropping all these people that he has coached against or for, or, I mean.
The ones that they talk about on freaking ESPN. I'm just hearing these names. That's why
He's
I brought
like, yeah,
up
they
Sonny
had,
Hill.
I don't know, that Chris dude and Duncan. It's like Chris Paul and Tim Duncan. Yeah, that's who you're talking
A
about.
coach that made me fall in love with just the game of basketball being Boeheim. He's just like,
Yeah.
Boeheim.
Yeah, the Big East there, you know.
got-
Like,
Just
and
the Big East, the old ACC, just all those guys are just like, what?
yeah,
Crazy.
nonchalant. Like, oh, man, Tony, how are you feeling right now, pal?
I'm super pumped.
I
You
mean,
know what
that's
I mean?
11
Like,
straight tournament. 11. They made the tournament 11 straight times, like consecutive. Like 11 years in a row, Maryland was in the
How
tournament.
did he talk for over 45
I
minutes?
felt like we were talking for 10 minutes, but yeah,
But that's great that he
So
did
Shu
that.
asked me, he goes, "Dude, did you tell him how long it was going to be?" I'm like, "No, because if it's a good conversation, I don't want to say, hey."
and if he hates us, he'll just say, "Hey guys, I gotta
All
go."
right,
But
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
immediately be like, he's Gary Williams. He has way more important
Yeah,
stuff.
he hates us.
You could tell he was comfortable.
Yeah, man, check it off the bucket list, man. Of legends. We got to keep going on with the show, but damn, we just talked to Gary. Like,
I did literally tell my wife. I was like, look, it's one of those things that, like, if the internet blows up tomorrow, we can never do a podcast again. I'm like, dude, I get to check. Like, I get to be.
There's
it's not like
video
I have a
evidence.
list that says I want to interview
Yeah.
a Hall of Fame basketball coach.
Yeah.
But it's like I want to be around or speak to or like have a cool conversation with anybody that's in
I
this
don't
world
have a
like
list that says I want to interview a Hall of Fame basketball coach, but I have a list that says I want to interview a Hall of Fame.
But as
I
soon
have
as
a
I get
list
an
that
option-
says, I did it. Check mark.
Exactly. But yes, going from one Hall of Famer and greatness to some greatness around here, the SVC has named their Player of the Year in their all SVC team. So congratulations to Josie Lohi of Southeastern getting Player of the Year, and shout out to Morgan Daniels of Uniota getting Defensive Player of the Year.
swat in my hand.
And Coach of the Year was Jim Hutton from Uniota, so shout out to there. Okay, now they got out of the way. Uniota lost the sectional final game. Against, who was it? Was it Fairfield Union? Yes. And Tony points out, one of the only other teams to beat them in the regular season, right? Isn't that right, Tony?
Yeah, it was Southeastern the one time that they snuck it, and then Fairfield Union beat them about halfway through the season. With this one, though, it was way different because when they lost the first time, it wasn't as close. But
Yeah, this was a 3-2 That's 2
It was
sets.
3-2, and Fairfield Union actually won the first 2 sets. Unioto wins the next 2, and they lose 15-13 in the 5th set. So it was a lot closer. I can't speak on Fairfield Union. I know nothing about their volleyball team, but the second I heard it,
I was
with them
shocked.
having such minimal losses, I
Yes.
was like, that sounds familiar.
So what I'm working at Applebee's, and they all come in. I'm like, oh, hey, how'd your guys' game go tonight? They're like, we would talk about that later. I'm like, oh.
Shut up.
Hey, group chat.
idiot.
Down goes Unioto. Yeah, it was insane. It was insane. I didn't expect it. I thought we'd be seeing Unioto go into a much deeper run. But we talk about consistency with the 11 straight NCAA titles. Adina's volleyball, I don't know if you know this, 35 consecutive sectional championships. They have won a sectional title longer than anyone a part of this show has been alive.
That's amazing.
What's crazy about that is you have Unioto winning the SVC and then not winning the sectional, but then you have
Adina
35th consecutive.
And it was Unioto winning the league at 13-1, Adina winning at 12-2. I mean, that's SVC volleyball, baby.
Yeah, it really is.
It's insane. But then give a shout out to Huntington, Southeastern, and Westfall all winning sectional championships as well.
So we have what, 5 schools that are sectional champs, and
then
none of them won the
are,
SVC.
Yes. And the crazy thing is Huntington had to beat Zane Trace for a sectional title. So
kudos to them.
yeah, kudos. Like we had to have a
We
SVC
watched
beat
Zane Trace
SVC.
play Unioto live, and that was good.
They had a
volleyball,
hitter,
you know?
Detillion, that she could single-handedly just win a set for him. So
or keep them in it, if
and just have one more. And they had some other people that looks like they could step up, but it just looks like it didn't work for him that night.
Morgan Daniels.
I mean that's insane for them to win the league and then not even make it out of the sectionals. That's insane. That if anyone play basketball, watch out when basketball season comes because they don't have that chip on their shoulder.
I'm just more pissed I didn't do more research on Fairfield Union only because I want to know, like, is it something that they have? Are they good? Was it kind of like mental,
just
like
a
a mental
matchup
error?
thing?
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, crap, this is the one team that pretty much beat us this year because they already redeemed the Southeastern loss.
Because when we had Casey on for the game and she was talking, she's saying that you find the weak spots just kind of like in the zone defense for football. You find the weak spots in the other team. Maybe Unioto had a weak spot that Fairfield Union was able to exploit last time and still exploit this time.
Sometimes, like in basketball, is the best way I can put it. Is like, maybe you're the best team in the league all around, but you play a team that you just don't match up well with.
Right.
And maybe they're one of the worst teams in the league, but they just have your number because it's hard for you to find ways to match up with them.
The year that we lost my junior year to Fairfield Leesburg, we actually played South Webster, who beat the number 1 seed because they just matched up really well against them.
Yep.
Did match up well against us, though. We beat them by 45. So let's just check that off the box real quick. Another thing that didn't match up well, Derek, I have a video for you on this one as well. A big high school quarterback versus a little defensive cornerback.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, little guy's the winner on this
When
one.
I first saw this, this is the type of place I love. It's just
Yes.
all heart, all hustle.
Yes. So we'll take a look here at this video. So we have the quarterback who is listed as 6'5", running down the field, and then gets absolutely blown up by that cornerback. I mean, literally, you see his feet go in the air.
It really is reminiscent of when Sean Taylor hit that punter in the Pro Bowl.
It was absolutely nasty. But hey, like you said, when you have the heart, it doesn't matter.
Have the heart and the hustle. That's all you need.
Speaking of heart and hustle, that's what you need for a championship team. So, fellas, I think it's time that we have our draft. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All righty. So, for
Let's do
today's draft, since we had the Hall of Famer, since we had the national champion of Maryland in 2002 on, we thought we'd go with our favorite championship teams from any sport at any time. So, Shu, you're number 1. Who are you going with?
2002 Maryland Terrapins.
All right.
Steve Blake, Juan Dixon, Lonnie Baxter.
Juan was a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah, he was great. And Billy Hahn, he was not recruited by hardly anybody.
You know what?
Billy
She might
Hahn
remember this
recruited
because I was a little bit older. So I was, at that time, Pepsi had a thing going where if you could get the cap of the national championship winner, you got the free jersey of that team. And I'll never forget, I had the Maryland cap. I was like, oh, so pumped. It took me the entire time, but nobody understands it. But back in the day,
Did you
could
get
still, we sent away for it, and I never got it.
Pepsi, you're doing it again.
Hold on.
You're doing it again.
$20. It never got sent out, and I was told it did.
Wow.
Probably should have kept that part to yourself because we were on Pepsi. Yeah, we got Pepsi to do something.
Alrighty, so Tony, Coach Shu goes with the 0-2 Maryland basketball team. Who are you going with?
Great pick, by the way.
Thank you.
2017 Eagles.
2017 Eagles
Bowl.
Super Bowl champs.
It was actually February 4th, 2018 is the date that it happened.
Philly special.
Game ended at 10:36.
Okay. So,
Did you put that in there?
yeah, I put every single word that you just said, typed it like I was in the law.
Hey, if you had a Super Bowl, you would do it too.
Well,
'cause
I don't.
we had
Hey,
a
I got
long
a
drought.
playoff win in 60 years. I'm good with it. Adam, you are next. Who is your first championship team you got to go with?
2007 Florida Gators football team, 41-14 against Ohio State, 41 unanswered after Ohio came out, went up 14-0. James Laurinaitis getting trucked by Tim Tebow first score. Absolute favorite game in all of football.
Derek approves.
Teddy
Yeah,
again returned that kickoff or punt early, and I thought, this is not going to be a game.
Well, then he got hurt. If he didn't get hurt, we would have won.
He got
Just
hurt
like if Marvin
celebrating.
Harrison Jr. didn't. Yeah, I know.
He got hurt celebrating, right? Like
Yeah.
somebody jumped on him or something.
I was not
Nobody-
paying attention to the game. I really didn't care. There's
we got-
a
yeah.
cute
they got
girl
s-
in the room. I was like 9. More important things for me in life
Yeah.
there. I'll have to go with my first favorite championship team. It's the team that got me into basketball. It's the team that got me into the NBA. They're still my NBA favorite team of all time here. It's the 03-04 Detroit Pistons. Dethroning the Lakers, not letting them have their three-peat, beating Kobe, beating Shaq. They had Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Lindsey Hunter in the backup, and Rip Hamilton.
Thank you. And also two Philadelphia icons there, Rasheed Wallace and Rip Hamilton. Rip Hamilton being literally from here to whatever the hell town down there is.
Yeah. So that's who I have to go with because they're my absolute favorite.
Fun fact, I may have mentioned this before, but my Montserrat team came up to Boston for a tournament, international tournament, teams from all over the world. And we beat South Africa, Poland, and India
They're Olympic teams,
to
right?
get to the well, Poland it was mostly their Olympic teams.
Gotcha.
I don't know if India was in the Olympics. Anyway, we made it to the Final Four, and we played the United States, and Chauncey Billups was the leading scorer.
yeah.
Mr. Big Shot.
He's
They
the
beat
man.
us. Yeah.
Alrighty, and then with my second pick, I will have to go with. I'm trying to remember the year. I'm pretty sure that's the right year. The 08 Giants, for one reason and one reason only. They stopped the undefeated Patriots.
Oh, that was 2007.
Was it 2007?
It
I
was
couldn't
07.
remember if it
Because
was 07
it was
or
the
08.
07 Patriots that went undefeated
Yeah.
with Randy Moss.
So
Yeah.
07 Giants. I've always liked Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, just because he's a goofball. And then that was one of the greatest catches I've ever seen with the helmet catch. So I'm going to go with the 07 Giants, and they beat the undefeated Patriots. Adam, what's your second pick?
Well,
Giants suck, by the way.
I knew you were not going to like that pick at all whatsoever.
I'm gonna have to go with one of my. I'm gonna have to go with 2013 Louisville basketball team.
Alrighty, winning the NCAA tournament and then getting it ripped away because of
Luke
strippers.
Hancock hitting shots from the parking lot. Russ Smith doing his thing. Peyton Siva. Absolutely love that team.
That was a good team. And
I know Andy doesn't like that team.
That disgusting injury.
Yeah.
That was.
Yeah.
All right, Tony, you got the 2017 Super Bowl Eagles. Who you going with next?
I'm going to just get this one out of the way, too, so I can have fun with some of my other ones. 2008 World Series Phillies.
All righty, 2008 Phillies, Ryan Howard,
I
Chase
like that
Utley.
pick. I really do.
Good one, good one. Shu, you're back on the clock. You have 2002 Maryland basketball. You
Yeah.
have 2 picks in a row here.
When this happened, the end of this game, I jumped off my couch and knocked over my coffee table when I saw LeBron block the shot.
Oh, yes.
2016 Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's a hell
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
You're talking about when he
Yeah.
blocked Andre Iguodala, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought, oh no, it's not good.
We're
And
done.
He came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Richard
And-
Jefferson, said that he just saw a black blur
Well,
come in front of his
Here's
face.
what people don't know: LeBron is brilliant as a basketball player, and if you watch the video, he goes in with his right hand to block the shot, and his other hand is out in case Iguodala
goes under and does a
went
reverse.
under.
Yeah.
So when he talked about teaching the fundamentals and stuff
Yeah.
like that, taking a great athlete like Michael Jordan, and then I immediately thought of LeBron because the reason why LeBron is so good is because if you made a creative player in basketball, he'd be 6'9", jump through the rafters and be that big. But his basketball, he's a facade. Like he knows, he can remember
every play.
Exactly. Like you talk about a game last season, game 13, and you give him like a little bit of backstory, he can give you exact breakdown for the last 30 seconds.
One of the biggest things with LeBron that I feel like he just does not get enough credit for is his longevity. I feel like he's put in a lot of work to stay healthy all these years. Like he's only had 2 seasons that he's had real injury problems.
And they've been the one with the Lakers when he's been older.
And they're like almost you're kind of looking at him like, look, if you need a little
we're
bit
not
of a
making
break,
the
it's
playoffs.
fine.
Yeah, we get it.
It's like we're not making the playoffs first year here in LA. I'm thinking my ankle's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
I
It's
understand.
like, hey, you've been carrying franchises for 18 years. We get
Yeah,
if you need a night or two
take a
off.
break, dude. You're trying. He's
all
the
right.
oldest player in the NBA right now. Still do and when Jordan was the oldest player, when he was at the Wizards, he was a different Jordan.
Yeah.
LeBron James is still the same LeBron James.
Yeah.
And
All right, Coach. So you got the O2 Maryland basketball 2016 Cleveland Cavs. Who's your next one?
I'm going with the 1992 Dream Team Olympic
Nice.
basketball squad.
Underrated
That
pick. I honestly didn't even
steamrolled.
think of
All right,
that.
I know
I was
you know.
thinking
I
old
know you
everybody.
know this. Who's the college player on it?
It's Christian Leitner.
Yeah.
I was going to say it before he said I swear.
that's my
But yeah,
pause.
Should have been Shaquille O'Neal, probably.
It should have absolutely been Shaquille O'Neal.
I don't know why it wasn't. I mean, like that. It's
I think he
insane.
won. But he won the Naismith technically.
And
didn't he?
Duke had won the national title and all
Yeah,
that.
and
Well, I hate Christian Leitner with everybody else and probably Gary Williams, so I don't care.
And he loves it as he builds his sheds and his real estate business.
I had to put Duke hater in there because I knew Gary wouldn't say it, but Gary's on our side when it
Yes,
comes
he
to the
is.
Duke rivalry.
Yes,
so,
he is.
Sorry, Gary, if I put you in a tough spot. All right, Tony, you got the 17 Eagles winning the Super Bowl at what time? On what day? In what month?
10:36, February 4th.
And the 2008
2018.
Phillies winning the World Series. Who you got next?
2002 Ohio State Buckeyes.
Oh, right. Hey, Chill Coffee legend
it's-
Ben Hartsock part of that team.
That's not even necessarily just an Ohio State homer thing either. Like I was thinking about some of the best games I ever remember, and I
No.
barely remember this.
Yeah.
That game. Was
I have
crazy.
a magazine cover of who was the quarterback?
Craig Krenzel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of him
Craig Krenzel.
throwing it I think he's
Craig
he's,
freaking Krenzel.
he's got a
Yeah.
Miami guy about to sack him, but he throws out of it. It's like a touchdown. It's like one of the last plays.
Yeah.
Think about the Ohio State quarterbacks that don't have a championship. Troy Smith, C.J. Stroud. Well, I guess Braxton Miller technically does, but he didn't play. All these great
Terrell
quarterbacks.
Pryor
But then
doesn't.
then you look at Craig Krenzel.
My favorite
Title.
story of that championship game was Miami's quarterback. What was his name?
Dorsey.
Yeah.
Ken Dorsey.
He our Ohio State's defense just beat the hell out of them that game.
It's like Chris Gamble.
Yeah,
and shit.
I don't want to hear about that call at the end
Yeah.
because we just physically beat them up.
Yeah.
But they said that at 7 o'clock the next morning, Dorsey was in the hospital getting fluids and stuff, and Krenzel was playing golf. And the game was over like at 10:30.
Yeah. He's playing golf.
And that's why Craig Krenzel went to the Bears. Was never seen again.
Never seen again. Hey, no. He went to the Bengals for a week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that was one of the. I felt like that going into that game, just from what people say about it, what they talk about it. Ohio State was kind of like the underdogs, and
They
people
were.
just kind of
Oh,
counting
yeah.
them out. And it's just, that Miami team was big and scary, but it's Ohio State.
Yeah.
And Ohio State had miraculously won 3 or 4 games that year on last-second plays. I mean, we had
The Northwestern game was nuts.
Purdue threw a Krenzel called an audible and threw a bomb to somebody
Yeah.
right at the end of the game, or it was over.
Craig Krenzel, man.
Well,
Legend.
that Miami D had like Jonathan Vilma, like it was.
Oh, yeah,
like,
dude.
it
they
wasn't
were-
just the offense because you had Willis McGahee, Clinton Portis.
Yeah, Dwayne the Rock Johnson on the
Winslow.
dude, behind 2 Hall of Fame defensive ends. I can't remember their names.
McGahee hurt his leg that game, just snapped it. It was
Hey,
ugly.
Maurice Claret.
I was
though,
about to
he
say,
went
was
off.
that the Claret years?
Yep.
Well, who was the safety that was really good for the Redskins? Ended up getting shot.
Taylor.
killed?
Taylor.
Taylor intercepted a pass, and Maurice Claret just went up and ripped it out of his arms.
Didn't
That's
even,
my
he
ball.
literally he
Yeah.
backline tracked him and literally just ripped it right
Yeah, he
out.
just-
Saved the game.
Yeah. All righty. So, Adam, you have 07 Florida Gators for football. You have 2013 NCAA Louisville basketball. Who are you going with your next pick?
My next pick, I'm going to have to go with probably the 2000 and was it the 2001 Ravens? The Ray Lewis, Shannon Sharp.
I think that was
was
either
it
2000 or 2001.
I think it was 2000.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
right at the turn of the century. That's
The 2000 Ravens.
yeah.
I hate the
just
Ravens.
because
That should've
they
been the
had
Browns
the
Super Bowl.
absolute worst offense in the history of
You're
championship.
telling me that
offenses.
Dilfer's dimes? I can't even say that with a straight face.
Was that Dilfer?
Yeah,
That was
Dilfer.
or was it Tony Banks?
No, it was
No,
Dilfer.
Banks was a
Trent
little.
Dilfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember it was an older Shannon Sharp, a young Ray Lewis. They had
Jamal.
Goose.
They had a killer defense. let me
Jamal
tell you.
Lewis.
Yeah, they had Goose.
well.
I'm pretty sure was the defensive tackle.
I mean, they were murdering
They
people.
had a.
He's dead now.
Who was that
Tony
safety they
Ed
had?
Reed.
Cruzano, I think was his
Who?
name.
Ed Reed.
Yeah, Ed
Yeah.
Reed.
Yeah, had Ed Reed. Yeah.
Dude,
Alrighty, so I got the 02-04 Pistons, the 2007 Giants, and I waited on this one because I know none of you would pick it. I'm going with the 2016 Chicago Cubs just because my dad, Grandpa didn't get to see it. So many people got to live through 108 years of not seeing a World Series. I got to see it, and they were down 3-1. Just like the Cavs that same year, come back, win it against the Cleveland team. That's why Schwarber's my favorite
Who
baseball player of all
also
time.
was down 3-1 in
Yeah,
the
to the
series
Warriors.
against well, I'm talking about the Indians. Weren't they down 3-1 against the Yankees in the series?
I
like,
think so.
Right before.
Yeah.
And then did exactly what the Warriors did.
Yeah.
Who was down 3-1 against.
Yeah,
the
so,
Thunder, yeah.
I got to go to the 2016 Cubbies. They will forever live in my heart. My next one, this is a toughie because I feel like I've gotten, my Super Bowl, my baseball, my basketball. Took my other basketball. Let me see. I wish I'm a few centimeters away from saying the 2010 Butler Bulldogs, but Puke had to ruin that one for me. So I hate them. I think I'm going to have to go with the Colts winning the Super Bowl in 06, I believe it was. Yeah. So I'm going to go with Colts 06 Super Bowl, which is weird because I love Peyton Manning, Dad grew up in Indiana, had to go with that. But the one memory that sticks out to me of that Super Bowl isn't even the Colts. It's Devin Hester running back the opening kickoff for a touchdown. So I'm going to go with that one. Adam, you're on the clock. You have two more. You can pick one here.
Okay. So who was my last pick there?
Your last pick. So you have the 2007 Florida Gators, 2013 Louisville
the
basketball,
Ravens,
and
the
the 2000
Ravens.
Ravens.
So I'm gonna have to go with. I'm gonna have to go with. Probably the 2010 Lakers. I had to go with the 2010 Lakers.
Alrighty. Kobe. That was the last one he won, right?
Yes, it was.
2010?
Yep.
Alrighty. So, Tony, you got the Super Bowl Eagles in 17, the 2008 Phillies, the 02 Buckeyes, and
1983 Sixers.
1983 76ers. Alrighty.
Fo. It's a famous quote. Moses Malone comes to the Sixers. He says, "We're not going to lose in the playoffs. We're going to go 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-4-4." They lost one game. Damn it, they were.
Oh, who'd they lose to?
It was actually the second round. They swept the finals 4-0. It was, imagine the Pistons or somebody like that at that time
Bad
frame.
boy, bad. Alrighty, Coach. So these are going to be your last two picks. You have 02 Maryland basketball, 2016
Okay.
Cleveland Cavs, 1992 Dream Team, and your last two.
All right. This is going back a ways, but I'm a lot older than you guys. First of all, the best baseball lineup in history, the 76 Cincinnati Reds.
Nice.
Johnny Bench,
Red
Pete Rose,
machine.
Tony Perez, Dave Concepcion, Joe Morgan. My favorite part of that series, Mickey Rivers played for the Yankees, and he'd stolen 1 million bases. And everybody was saying Bench versus Mickey Rivers. Is Rivers going to be able to steal on Bench? Because Bench had a rifle back there.
Right.
Mickey Rivers walked or got a hit or something, first batter, and he was on first base, and Bench picked him off from the catcher's position. Like the first pitch, he just turned and fired it down there.
Bam,
picked
there
the
you
dude
go.
off. Yeah, but they were big red machine, man.
Alrighty, so you got them, and who's your other pick?
My other one is going to be, this is going way back, but it's the 1973 Los Angeles Lakers. I was
right.
just a kid, and they'd been knocking on the door, and they'd always get beat by the Celtics. But Wilt Chamberlain went from Philadelphia to the Lakers. He was my favorite player.
I know a
Yeah.
crazy.
Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, who I met at West Virginia one year, and I couldn't speak. I didn't know how to function as a human being when I met him.
Jerry West is my favorite all-time stat.
Yeah.
The only player to ever win a NBA Finals MVP
Yeah.
award
Yeah.
on a losing
Yeah.
team. This is my
Yeah.
favorite
Wilt
stat
Chamberlain,
all time.
Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, Jim McMillan, Pat Riley was on that team.
Yeah.
He came off
Hey,
the
Pat
bench.
Riley references twice in one show. That's been record for
There's
us.
also the coach later on when they
Yeah.
won it with Magic. His
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
one, he was the assistant coach behind I can't remember the dude's name.
Alrighty, so Shu rounds out his with 0-2 Maryland basketball, 2016 Cleveland Cavs, 1992 Dream Team, 76 Reds, 73 Lakers.
Yep.
Tony, you got one pick. Who's it going to be?
I think I'm going to change it only because you kind of made me want to. But the
Okay.
1980 World Series Phillies, you're right. You
All
really
right.
like that 70s team. Pete Rose made me kind of think of it, but
Yeah.
had a later Pete Rose who came in and looked Mike Schmidt in the face. He was the greatest third baseman of all time. And there's no question about that because people say A-Rod, he's not a full third baseman. He only played 9 years there. All that being said, greatest third baseman of all time. Pete looked at him in the face one day when the Philly fans were giving him crap and literally looked at him and was like, "You're Michael Jackman Schmidt." The hell is that? You guys go out there, and he was like down in the dumps, like I'm in a slump, man. And he literally just gripped him up, and I was just like, and that's an old Pete Rose, and that's literally that's a big thing that changed kind of the momentum of that team with Dallas Green and some of the coaches that they had. But it was a super freaking sweet team, and that team even went on the next years to get Joe Morgan, who actually in the very end of his career was a Philadelphia Philly as well.
That team, Johnny Bench, I read his book, or a book about him, and when he was a rookie, the Reds had a pitcher named Jim Merritt. He'd won 20 games the year before, and Bench didn't think he was bringing it hard enough, thought he could throw it hard, his fastball. And he went out to the mound and told him, and the guy said, "You damn rookie, you don't talk to me like that. Get your ass back behind the plate where you're supposed to be." Bench called for a fastball and caught it barehanded and threw it back to him.
I'll talk to you however I want.
That is some gold.
And he said, "If you want to not throw it hard, I'll just catch it with my
His
hand."
hands,
In terms of the cheat code,
Yeah.
his freaking hands. He's also known to be able to hold like 6 baseballs
I
in
think
one
it was,
hand.
I think it was 7.
7.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the picture?
There's
No.
pictures.
He really
yeah.
can hold 7 baseballs in
It's
his
insane.
hand.
that's insane. This man's hands are
remember-
made of steel.
Yeah.
He would throw the ball to second, and the pitcher would have to get out of the way because it just went on a straight line. It never,
Yeah.
you know.
You can hear the
Yeah.
coming off of that. All right, Adam, you got one more pick. You got the 07 Lakers, 13 Louisville basketball, 2000 Ravens, 2010 Lakers, and
So I'm gonna go. I got 2 honorable mentions. First honorable mention is gonna be the 2011 Mavericks. The second honorable mention is gonna be the 1980 Louisville basketball team with Dr. Duncan Stein, Darrell Griffith, who gets drafted by Utah. Great team to say he's got a poster and everything like that. But I'm gonna have to go with the team that made me fall in love with basketball as a whole. The 2001 Syracuse Orangemen, Carmelo Anthony led national champions.
nice pick. Nice pick.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong picking Melo unless you picked him to win the NBA Finals.
Yeah. He got his championship before he ever went out.
Yeah. That's what I say about Gordon Hayward. He used all of his magic in high school, man.
Yep.
Alrighty, so with my last pick, I'm going to go as one just because I love underdog stories. I think this is one of the first true underdog stories that is near and dear to people's hearts. I'm going to go with Jim Valvano, the 83 NC
Yeah.
State, just
Jimmy V.
because.
When Gary was talking about NC State, I said that was when they had
Yeah.
Jimmy V,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yep.
so that's what I'm going to go with. I just think Jimmy V and a bunch of kids now might only know him because of the Jimmy V Foundation. It's not like I was around whenever he was coaching, obviously.
The Jimmy V
But-
Foundation is what put me on to him, and I found
Yeah,
out
and
later.
then you go back and
30
listen
for
to that,
30,
And I read a book when I was in 7th grade because I was forced to read about Hakeem Olajuwon, and he said that he remembers standing under the basket and watching the shot go, and he's like, "Oh, we missed. We're about to win." And then, like, out of nowhere, he sees the guy come and make it in for the layup. He goes, "What the hell just happened?"
Yeah.
By slam a jammer, that's
Yeah.
what the hell just
He was
happened.
like, "I was 2 seconds away from being a national title, and now I'm just like, what the hell am I supposed to do now?" So I got to go with the 1983 Jimmy V NC State with that one.
Also, I want to clarify that when I said 2007 Florida Gators football team, I was talking about their football and basketball team that year because it was
Oh,
just
yeah.
one big championship.
Boo.
One big championship.
MVD is loving you today.
Yeah, I know. 'Cause, they beat the same team twice that year for both of them. They also beat them in the College World Series en route to the College World Series as well. Pretty
Bad
sure.
year
Do
to
you
be
know what's
Ohio
really
State versus
awesome
Florida.
though? Like when you have like a championship team and you like the people that are on it. Joakim Noah, Corey Brewer, like take your championships. Ew, ew.
Alrighty.
Joakim Noah.
So that's how we're going
Al
to end.
Horford.
Ew.
that's how we're going to end today's show. And
Go to the Hawks.
that is our
He's a
championship
Celtic
draft.
now.
We had the legendary Gary Williams on today. It was a pleasure, guys. What did you learn today on today's show?
Gary Williams is an absolute legend. I already knew that coming in, but he's even more of a legend.
Yeah.
now.
He's a timeless treasure.
Yeah. Timeless.
Because I just looked it up earlier. We talked about this. Quick shout out. He's 78 years old. I don't mean to blow up his spot. You look amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I looked at his Wikipedia page. You should take a screenshot of our show and put it on there because they're doing you dirty, bud. It's you coaching back at Maryland, and I'm telling you, you need an
looks
upgrade
like
on
a
the
young man
Wikipedia
still.
page, bud.
Make sure you look at our website, rtwavesports.com. We'll be at Union on Wednesday at 6 o'clock for our game day show, live streaming it Friday. Check us on Twitter at Ride the Wave Show 2023, at Ride the Wave Show on Instagram, and check out our Facebook page. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next week on Monday.
Like
Smash
and
it.
subscribe.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Hit that heart button.